Welcome to FPL Selection. Today we will see how the team is shaping up for Game Week 25, but first a quick look at how we got on in Game Week 24. So total score this week of 113 points, but still got a red arrow down to 3,571. It really was nothing this week other than a few players, especially Chris Wood again. His hat-trick, and yeah, there's a few other players that basically you had to own one of them to get any kind of rise when you're in the top sort of 10,000. So yeah, even with the good score, it was a little bit of a drop in rank. Stars of the week, obviously David Moyes, assistant manager. Now, with the announcement for the extra double in Game Week 25, it just made sense to play the assistant manager to get the 5 games in 3 weeks. And it was just the simplest move for me to go for Moyes because I didn't need to make any more transfers. I just brought him in and saved the free transfer as well. So really happy with that late goal, obviously, taking him up to 22 points. I mean, for 0.5 million, that's incredible. Get 22 points out of that. And to beat slot by 7 points as well. Yeah, made it very nice. Obviously didn't have a great impact this week, but yeah, glad I played it this week, and yeah, the gamble paid off there. Then Allison with 10 points. Obviously got the 9 points in the first game and only the 1 in the second, but yeah, absolutely perfect for a double game week to get that double digits for a goalkeeper. Can't complain at all. And then obviously Mo Salah with a gigantic 58 points as captain. Yeah, it would have been a perfect week to play the triple captain as well. But yeah, I can't complain really. As soon as that assistant manager idea was 5 games in 3 game weeks, yeah, I was never going to go triple captain after seeing that. So yeah, whoever did obviously did really well, but yeah, we only lost out on sort of 7 points there by playing the assistant manager. So just an incredible player, isn't he, Salah? And yeah, can't back against him at all for captaincy now, I don't think, until we see a real drop off in form. So let's move on now to Game Week 25. Now, this video is going to be sort of more about transfers and strategy, and I'll be a little bit more swift going through the current team, just because I have 5 free transfers. And obviously I've got an assistant manager to move on as well, so I think it's worth spending a bit more time talking about that. Now, the plan for Moyes is obviously to move him on. I don't think there's any point in keeping him for Crystal Palace away only. Got the doubles for Liverpool and Aston Villa this week, so definitely Slot or Emery completely is the play, I think. Now, I have considered Slot, but that would mean I'd need to move on one of my Liverpool players, which maybe would have been Alexander-Arnold, but seeing as he came on and played most of the second half in the Everton game, I'm assuming he's going to be fit enough to play at least one of the games in Game Week 25. And yeah, he possibly might get some substitute minutes in the other game if he's not going to start both, but yeah, I just don't think it's worth moving those pieces around. And if I go with Emery, I can get the potential bonus if they can get a result against Liverpool in the same way that Everton just did. So I think with the Ipswich at home game, you know, you'd have to back Villa to win that one. So you'd like to see that to be sort of 10 to 12 points. And then you've got the bonus against Liverpool. Even the draw, as we've seen with Everton, even the draw could get 10 points. So yeah, I think for me it makes sense. And I think I don't want to have 3 Villa players either. I'm probably just going to have 2. So it makes sense to keep the 3 Liverpool players and then have 2 Villa players and Emery as the manager. So yeah, I'm pretty certain that's the way I'm going to go this week. Then looking at the midfield, I think Rodgers is a definite for me. Just seems to be the talisman at the moment for Villa. Plays most of the games 90 minutes, or at least starts every game anyway and plays the majority. So for his price at 5.6 million, yeah, it's just a no-brainer there for me, especially with Anthony Gordon potentially injured at the moment, and Bruno Fernandes obviously is Manchester United obviously are a disaster at the moment, and Bruno's been playing very deep. So yeah, one of those two is going to make way and Rodgers will be coming in. I'm pretty sure of that. But then in order to fund the moves that I'm trying to make this week, I am going to have to get rid of both Gordon and Bruno Fernandes, most likely. So I need a second midfield option. Now, there is some potential there at Villa. Obviously, with Rashford coming in, Asensio, and Daniel Marlin as well. So there's 3, good players there. But it is just a question of who's going to start, how many minutes are they going to get. And I think if Watkins is confirmed out, Marlon might start up front again. So he could be a nice option and a bit of a punt. So we'll have to wait and see on the injury news there. But at the moment, because I am considering to go for Watkins, I think the other slot is obviously, I can't have another Villa player, which would obviously be too many anyway, I think. But I am looking at most likely Kluivert from Bournemouth, 5.9 million. They got Southampton away this week and Wolves at home next week. So 2 really nice fixtures. They've got Brighton and Tottenham away, which normally you'd think would be sort of tougher games, but both are quite leaky defences. So I think, the way Bournemouth play, the way they press, especially in an away match. We've seen what they did to Newcastle a few weeks ago, and they certainly gave Liverpool a real game in the last league game. So I think one of the Bournemouth mids definitely makes sense for the next sort of 4 to 5 weeks. And for me, Kluivert's the one, just based on the fact he's got penalties. I think you could almost go for him, Semenyo, or Utara. But yeah, I'd probably back the penalty taker there. And he's had very good minutes recently. So yeah, he's probably the strongest candidate for that other midfield slot. But I am also looking at Christopher Nkunku. I've just heard that Jackson's going to be out until at least April. And the other striker at Chelsea, Guiu, I think that's how you say it, he's also out for the rest of February. So I can see Nkunku's going to get some minutes there as the striker. Now, he is a quality player. When he is playing, he is someone that can score goals. He's shown that at Leipzig, in the Champions League. Even for Chelsea, when he has played, he has scored goals. I just don't think he's an out-and-out centre forward, but looking at the Chelsea squad, it's probably going to be him that plays there. Maybe if he plays with Palmer, they might sort of rotate that position and, both sort of float between 9 and 10. So it would be jumping on a bit early, because I think 27 and 28 Southampton and Leicester home games are the ones you want that second Chelsea attacker for. So yeah, it's going to take a bit of thought there, and I think missing out on the Bournemouth midfielder might be a bit risky, because I think they're going to be very well owned for the next few weeks, especially as they don't have a blank in game week 29. But yeah, it's a punt I'm looking at, because we're sort of reaching that point in the season now where you've got to make the push, and I've been dropping down the ranks every week now for many weeks. So someone like him could be, a nice little punt to try and make up some ground on the top of the table, although probably not going to make it to number 1 now. So yeah, we'll put some more thought into that, but I think Rodgers and Kluivert's most likely at the moment. But yeah, we'll see what the press conferences bring, especially when it comes to Watkins, who I would really like for this double. I think he's going to be very difficult for a lot of people to bring him in, especially I just think selling Isak would be crazy at the moment, even with the bad fixtures. We've seen what he did to the Arsenal defence in the Cup last week. So I think he can score against anyone. He's shown that, And again, Newcastle don't have to win the games. He can still score, and they can lose. But the form he's in, I don't want to get rid of him. So for me, if I move the midfield pieces around with Rodgers and another cheap midfielder, I can get Watkins in for João Pedro. João Pedro was dropped for the FA Cup game. I don't know if that was a fitness thing or whether that was just being dropped. But yeah, just the lack of returns from Pedro recently, and Brighton especially not really impressing that much, although they did win their cup game against Chelsea last week. But I've just not seen enough from him to suggest that keeping him is going to be, I could be more patient, I guess, and keep going with him, because I do think the player is there. He really is a quality player, but yeah, it's just not clicking at the moment. And Watkins having the double game week, especially with the Liverpool game being at home. Ipswich obviously is a great game. I just think there's going to be something there for him, but it's a question of if he's fit, so I'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think if he's cleared to be fit, we'll be bringing Watkins in and Pedro will be going out. Yeah, I'm pretty certain on that. And I think with these moves, I'm most likely going to free hit in game week 29, especially with the triple Liverpool and double Newcastle. Yeah, it's going to make sense for me to free hit, so that'll also allow me to be aggressive in these next few weeks and not have to think too much about any of the teams that are blanking in that week. So moving on to the team now as it stands and looking at the defence. So we've got the double Liverpool defence with Alisson and Alexander-Arnold, Wolves at home and Aston Villa away for the double this time. Now, I think the Wolves at home game looks like the one for the clean sheet, and although Wolves have looked a lot better recently, and obviously Cunha's back fit and signed his contract now, so he's got his head in the game properly for them again. So he got the win over Villa last time out. I don't think it's going to be an easy game for Liverpool, but you're expecting a reaction after the Everton draw, and being at home, you'd always back Liverpool. So I'm happy to hold those two for that game. Just hoping that Alexander-Arnold's going to start that one. Obviously, they're going to be quite cautious with him, bringing him back from injury, but yeah, I don't see any value in taking him out, even if he only gets one game in the double. Yeah, I just can't see it being worth taking him out, especially when I'm already making four other moves, most likely. Then Gabriel is away to Leicester. Gabriel was probably still the best defender in the game in terms of attack and threat, and Leicester really do look like a championship team at the moment, so yeah, there's not much I can say there really. And Arsenal lacking firepower now with another injury, so you can imagine they're going to be extra careful with the defence, because they're going to be probably struggling to score plenty of goals. So yeah, you're not gonna move him on anytime soon. And Castagna has Nottingham Forest at home. Decided to play him over Lewis Hall this week. I just think City at the Etihad are always going to score at least one, you'd imagine. And Nottingham Forest at home, Fulham are a decent side, and I always think Forest away from home, they're always going to play a little bit more cautiously. I know they won last week 7-0, so it's just hard to call them not a good attacking side, but I think that was more of the circumstances of the game. It was probably a little bit of a crazy score, but yeah, I think Fulham at home against Forest, probably a much better chance of a clean sheet than Lewis Hall away at City. So yeah, it wasn't much in that, but I think I'm going to just go with the home team there. So let's move on to the midfield. Salah there with the double. Wolves at home, Aston Villa away. Again, not much that can be said about Salah. Unbelievable season so far. He's definitely going to be my captain this week. That's just not up for debate. And seen again, he doesn't have to be involved in the games, and he still comes away with goals and assists. It's incredible. Watched the Bournemouth game, watched the Everton game, and he was pretty much anonymous. And then he just pops up in the moments and gets the returns. I just think there's no point going against him, especially when he's got a double. So, a very simple one there. Bumo is away to West Ham. Now, West Ham have definitely improved defensively recently, especially since Potter's gone to 5 at the back. Definitely been a lot tighter. Chelsea certainly found it difficult to break them down. And Bumo for me though is at least a play until after game week 29. They've got some okay fixtures, and Bumo's a long-term hold. As I always say with him, he'll sort of trickle along, and yeah, he's on penalties as well. So yeah, he's not going anywhere for me anytime soon. Bruno Fernandes is away to Spurs. Now, I really don't want to sell him this week because I think there's a good fixture away at Spurs. You can always expect to score a goal against Tottenham, but he's just playing so deep at the moment. He keeps playing in the double pivot in the United midfield, usually alongside Ugarte. And Mainoo's been sort of playing the number 10 ahead in the last couple of games. So I think when you see that and you see he's not breaking into the box as often, it's just not worth 8.3 million. So, but I can just see him getting a haul in this game because, yeah, as a Tottenham away, I think it's a good fixture. But I think sort of the plans for the double to get Rodgers, Watkins in, and probably a Bournemouth midfielder is, yeah, something's got to give, and he's not that highly owned in the top sort of 10,000, so I don't think I'm going to lose too much on getting rid of him. And Anthony Gordon is away to City. If he is fit, I do think this is a really good game. I think I mentioned it in the last video that I think it's the perfect game for him on the counter-attack. Get in behind City, especially him and Isak with their pace. But he has got a knock. You can't ever trust Eddie Howe. I think he was injured early in the season a few times, and he would sort of appear when you weren't expecting, and he randomly missed a couple of games. So I think he's just that kind of player. He's always probably got a little knock and he just carries on, and they just decided to rest him for the cup game, and yeah, I think he'll probably be fine, but you just don't know what to expect with Eddie Howe. So again, he's probably going to make way for me this week. I wouldn't mind keeping him, but I think if Watkins is fit, then I want him for the double, so Gordon's going to have to be one of the make weights there. And I can always get him back in a couple of weeks if I wanted to. And Cole Palmer is away to Brighton. Now, Brighton is the game where he scored 4 goals earlier in the season, and yeah, you'd like to think that Brighton would probably learn their lesson from that, but yeah, it's Cole Palmer's. I can't believe people selling him. I think it was something that he's created 32 chances in the last few games. It's the most in the league. Obviously Chelsea haven't been finishing the chances, so. But perhaps he's going to play up front now with Jackson's injury, or at least he's going to rotate maybe as a sort of false 9 with Nkunku maybe. So he could be closer to the goal in the next few games, and anyway, he's not going anywhere for me. I think the quality of the player is still going to bring returns, and I think anyone selling him, it's probably a little bit hasty, but yeah, Brighton certainly haven't been a great defence for a while now, so yeah, you can see some returns there for Palmer. So moving on to the forwards, Isak is away to City. Again, as mentioned earlier, I think that's a good fixture for Isak. The Man City defence is such a mess. We saw that again in the Real Madrid game. It's giving away silly chances. And when you give away silly chances to good players, they're going to punish you. And Isak is the best forward in the league at the moment. So he's going to get at least one chance against City, and you'd back him to take it. So he's not going anywhere for me. I'm not even considering bringing Watkins in for him. I need to make the funds up to get rid of João Pedro for Watkins, because yeah, Isak for me is staying for the rest of the season unless he gets injured, no doubt. And João Pedro is at home to Chelsea. Again, he lost his place in the FA Cup game, and Brighton won that game against Chelsea, so I'd be very surprised if he starts this one. Maybe it was just a rest, maybe he had a little niggle or something, but yeah, just the returns haven't been there for many weeks. I've been really patient with him. Very frustrating because he is the perfect price to have in your squad. But like I said, I don't want to get rid of Isak, and I think if Watkins is fit, I've got to have him for the double. So yeah, he's got to go for me. If Watkins is ruled out, or is that doubtful that I don't want to bring him in, I probably will keep Pedro for the next couple of weeks and see where I end up. But yeah, I definitely want to get rid of him now, so yeah, most likely be going for Watkins this week. So as mentioned earlier, Mo Salah's going to be captain, no doubts about that. Probably end up vice captain on one of the Villa players, so Rodgers or Watkins. Depends how adventurous I'm feeling, but I mean, Salah's more than likely going to play, so it probably doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, no chance I'll be picking one of them over Salah this week. And Emery in as assistant manager, I just think it's worth the gamble. Get the points from the Ipswich game, and yeah, take a stab at Liverpool at home. Villa have a great record at home this season. I think they've only lost to Arsenal so far this year, so yeah, seems like another nice little gamble. And as we've seen with Moyes, if it pays off, yeah, there's a nice chunk of points there. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.